The millionaire's 4-year-old son could only crawl until the poor cleaner did something so incredible it changed everyone's lives forever. Before the story begins, wherever you are on your journey, consider this as encouragement to keep going. If this resonates with you, please give us a like and subscribe to our channel for more inspiration. The screams pierced through the cavernous living room of the Bennett estate. 4-year-old Lucas Bennett had toppled over again, his small hands slapping against the Italian marble as he tried to push himself up. His legs, thin and underdeveloped, remained motionless beneath him. "It's okay, buddy." "Daddy's here." William Bennett rushed to his son's side, his Italian loafers sliding slightly on the polished floor. At 38, William was the picture of success. Founder of Next Tech Solutions, with a net worth that had recently crossed the 8-figure mark. Yet the helplessness in his eyes as he cradled his sobbing son revealed the one problem his money couldn't solve. Sarah Bennett appeared at the doorway, her silk blouse wrinkled from another sleepless night. "Did he try again?" she asked, kneeling beside them and smoothing Lucas's sandy blonde hair. "I just wanted to reach my truck," Lucas whimpered, pointing to the remote-controlled toy sitting on the coffee table, tantalizingly out of reach for a child who could only crawl. The Bennetts shared a look over their son's head, that same mix of heartbreak and frustration that had become their silent language. For 4 years, they'd consulted specialists across the country. The diagnosis remained frustratingly vague, a rare neuromuscular condition affecting Lucas's lower extremities. Despite countless therapies and experimental treatments, Lucas had never taken a single step. "Mr. Bennett," a soft voice came from the doorway. Maria Rodriguez stood there with a vacuum cleaner, her simple uniform a stark contrast to the luxury surrounding her. "I'm sorry to interrupt. Should I come back later?" "No, it's fine, Maria," William said, lifting Lucas onto the sofa. "We were just having a moment." Maria nodded understanding, her dark eyes lingering sympathetically on Lucas before she quietly moved to another room. At 45, Maria had worked for the Bennetts for 6 years, maintaining their sprawling Greenwich, Connecticut mansion with quiet efficiency. To the Bennetts, she was reliable background presence. To Lucas, she was the woman who snuck him homemade cookies and called him Pequeño Guerrero, little warrior. Later that evening, Dr. Mitchell delivered the news they'd been dreading. "I'm sorry, but there's been no improvement," he said, reviewing Lucas's latest test results. "The treatments aren't producing the response we'd hoped for." "There must be something else we can try," Sarah insisted, her voice cracking. "Money is no object. We'll go anywhere, try anything." Dr. Mitchell's expression remained grave. "Mrs. Bennett, I understand your frustration, but we've consulted with the top specialists in the country. At this point, I think we need to focus on adaptive strategies rather than walking. Many children with similar conditions live full, productive lives with mobility assistance." William's jaw tightened. "So you're saying give up? Accept that our son will never walk?" "I'm saying we need to be realistic about—" "Realistic," William cut in. "I built a tech empire from my garage when everyone said it was unrealistic. I don't accept limitations, doctor." After the doctor left, an uncomfortable silence fell over the Bennett home. Emma, their 10-year-old daughter, retreated to her room, tired of the constant tension. William locked himself in his home office, while Sarah sat beside Lucas's bed, watching him sleep, tears streaming down her face. Outside the door, Maria paused as she finished her evening duties. She could feel the despair radiating from the household, a feeling she knew too well from her own struggles. As a single mother who had fled violence in her homeland, she understood what it meant to face seemingly insurmountable obstacles. But she also knew something the wealthy Bennetts, for all their resources, had yet to discover. Sometimes, miracles come from the most unexpected places. And tomorrow, though none of them knew it yet, everything would change. Morning light streamed through the expansive windows of the Bennett estate, casting long shadows across the breakfast nook where Lucas sat in his custom-made supportive chair. His scrambled eggs remained untouched as he watched Emma gather her backpack for school. "Can I go to school too?" Lucas asked, his blue eyes hopeful. Emma paused, glancing uncertainly at their mother. They'd had this conversation before. Sarah set down her coffee cup. "Honey, we've talked about this. You have your tutors who come here, remember? And they bring all those fun activities just for you." But I want friends," Lucas said simply. The weight of those 3 words hung in the air. William, who had been scrolling through emails on his tablet, looked up. For all their wealth and privilege, they couldn't give their son the simple joy of running through a playground or playing tag with other children. "Hey, sport," William said, trying to sound upbeat. "How about this weekend we invite some kids over? We could have that awesome magician come back, the one with the rabbits." Lucas nodded without enthusiasm. They all knew what would happen. The same thing that always happened. The other children would run and play while Lucas watched from his specialized wheelchair or crawled painfully slowly behind them, always separate, always different. After Emma and William left, Sarah knelt beside Lucas. "Physical therapy in 30 minutes, okay? Ms. Walker has some new exercises to try." Lucas nodded again, his small shoulders slumping. Sarah felt the familiar ache in her chest, that mixture of fierce love and helplessness that had become her constant companion. Maria entered with her cleaning cart, her movements quiet and efficient as always. "Good morning, Mrs. Bennett." "Good morning, little man." She smiled at Lucas, who brightened slightly at her presence. "Maria, I have a consultation call with that specialist in Switzerland. Could you keep an eye on Lucas until the physical therapist arrives?" Sarah asked. "Of course, Mrs. Bennett." As Sarah disappeared into the home office, Maria began dusting the family photos that lined the shelves. Lucas watched her methodical movements. "Maria, why do you clean houses?" he asked suddenly. Maria turned, regarding the boy thoughtfully. "Because it's honest work that feeds my son Miguel and helps pay for his college." "Is college expensive?" "Very," Maria nodded. "But Miguel has a scholarship because he worked very hard in school, and I work hard too so he can follow his dreams." "My daddy has lots of money," Lucas said, "but he can't make my legs work." Maria set down her duster and approached Lucas. There was no pity in her eyes, only a steady warmth. "Money is a tool, pequeño guerrero, but the strongest tool is here," she tapped his chest, "and here," she tapped his forehead. "My legs don't work because they're broken," Lucas said matter-of-factly. "Perhaps," Maria said, "but your spirit is not broken, and that matters more." Lucas considered this with the seriousness only a 4-year-old could muster. "What's a spirit?" Maria smiled. "It's the part inside you that fights when things are hard. It's what makes you try to reach your truck even when you fall. It's what made my Miguel study all night even when he was tired." Her voice softened. "It's what made me walk across 3 countries with him when he was a baby, looking for a better life." Lucas's eyes widened. "You walked across 3 countries. That's a lot of walking." Maria nodded. "There were days I thought my legs would break, days when I wanted to give up." Her eyes grew distant with memory. "But each morning I would look at Miguel and say, Hoy es un nuevo día, es posible. Today is a new day. It is possible." Something in her words seemed to reach Lucas in a way nothing else had. For the first time in weeks, there was a spark in his eyes that went beyond childish curiosity, a glimmer of something deeper, more determined. Neither of them noticed Sarah standing in the doorway, listening, a thoughtful expression on her face. The incident happened on a Tuesday afternoon in late September. The Bennett household had settled into its usual routine. William at the office, Emma at school, Sarah on a conference call with Lucas's medical team, and Maria quietly working through her cleaning duties. Lucas had been left in the sunroom with his educational toys, specifically designed for children with mobility challenges. He'd grown bored of them within minutes. His specialized wheelchair sat empty beside him as he crawled across the floor toward the sliding glass doors that led to the terrace and garden beyond. Through the glass, he could see the gardener trimming the hedges into perfect shapes. Beyond that was his playground, custom-built, fully accessible and completely lonely. Lucas pressed his small hand against the cool glass, watching the outside world that always seemed just beyond his reach. That's when he heard it, soft singing coming from the adjacent room. Maria was mopping the kitchen floor, her melodic voice carrying a Spanish lullaby. Curious, Lucas crawled toward the sound. He reached the doorway just as Maria finished the kitchen. She didn't notice him as she moved her cleaning cart toward the laundry room. Lucas followed, intrigued by her song and the rhythmic way she moved through the house, so different from the cautious, worried movements of his parents. The laundry room was at the end of a hallway with 3 steps down. Lucas stopped at the top of these steps, a formidable obstacle for a child who had never walked. He watched as Maria descended, still humming, and began loading the washing machine. Lucas was about to turn back when he noticed something on the bottom step. A small, colorful toy car that must have fallen from his collection. One of his favorites. Without thinking, he reached for it, stretching his body forward until he suddenly teetered on the edge of the top step. The fall happened in slow motion. Lucas felt himself losing balance, his hands grasping at air as he tumbled forward. Maria turned at the sound of his frightened cry. What happened next would forever be etched in Lucas's memory. She moved with stunning speed and grace, dropping the laundry and lunging forward. Her body twisted mid-air as she positioned herself beneath him, breaking his fall with her own body. They landed together, Maria taking the brunt of the impact against the hard tile floor. "Lucas, are you hurt?" she gasped, quickly checking him over. Lucas was too stunned to speak, not from the fall, but from what he had witnessed. In that moment of crisis, Maria had moved with such purpose, such perfect control of her body. It seemed like magic to a child who couldn't make his legs obey the simplest commands. "How did you do that?" he finally whispered, his eyes wide with wonder. "Do what, Nino?" Maria asked, still checking him for injuries. "You flew, your legs and arms. They just did what you wanted." Maria smiled, not understanding the profound impact of the moment. The body knows what to do when someone you care about is in danger. Lucas touched her arm with newfound reverence. "Could you teach me?" "Teach you what, pequeño?" "To make my body listen, to make it do what I want." Before Maria could respond, Sarah appeared at the top of the stairs, her face draining of color when she took in the scene. "Lucas, what happened? Are you hurt?" As Sarah rushed down, Maria quickly explained the situation, emphasizing that Lucas was unharmed. But throughout the ensuing commotion, Sarah's frightened scolding, the hasty call to Dr. Mitchell for an emergency checkup, William rushing home early, Lucas remained unusually quiet, his eyes following Maria with a new intensity. That night, after being thoroughly examined and put to bed early, Lucas lay awake, replaying what he had seen. In his 4 years of life, through countless doctors and therapists, no one had ever shown him what Maria had shown him in those few seconds. That the human body could perform miracles when driven by something powerful enough. For the first time, Lucas began to wonder if his legs weren't broken after all. Maybe they were just waiting for the right reason to move. "She moved like a superhero, Daddy," Lucas insisted the next morning, his small hands gesturing excitedly. "Like when Captain America jumps from buildings." William exchanged a glance with Sarah across the breakfast table. After yesterday's incident, they'd been considering whether to reprimand Maria for not watching Lucas more carefully. Instead, Their son couldn't stop talking about her. "Lucas, Maria was just reacting quickly," Sarah explained gently. "She's an adult with normal mobility. It's different for you, sweetie." Lucas's face fell. "But what if it's not? What if I just need to learn how?" Dr. Mitchell had assured them last night that Lucas was physically unharmed from the fall, but now William worried about a different kind of damage: false hope. They'd been down this road before, through experimental treatments and breakthrough therapies that led only to crushing disappointment. "Buddy," William said carefully, "remember what Dr. Mitchell explained about your condition. Your leg muscles don't receive signals from your brain the same way other people's do." "But what if they could?" Lucas persisted. "Maria says the body knows what to do when it's important enough." Sarah set down her coffee cup. "When did she tell you that?" "Yesterday. She says her body knew how to save me because she cares about me." Lucas looked between his parents with earnest blue eyes. "Don't you think my legs would work if they knew how important it is?" The devastating innocence of his logic left them speechless. Emma, who had been quietly eating her cereal, spoke up. "Maybe Lucas should try," she said simply. "What's the worst that could happen? He's already not walking." William frowned at his daughter's bluntness, but Sarah was watching Lucas's face. The determination there was something she hadn't seen before. Later that morning, Sarah found Maria in the upstairs hallway, organizing the linen closet. "Mrs. Bennet," Maria said, straightening immediately. "About yesterday, I want to apologize." "No," Sarah interrupted. "I should be thanking you for protecting him." She hesitated. "Lucas hasn't stopped talking about how you moved. He seems inspired." Maria smiled softly. "Children see possibilities where adults see limitations." "What exactly did you tell him?" Sarah asked, trying not to sound accusatory. "Only that the body sometimes knows what to do in moments that matter." Maria's dark eyes were steady. "Mrs. Bennet, in my village, doctors were scarce. When people needed healing, they often found it through faith and determination." Sarah tensed. "Maria, I respect your beliefs, but we've had the best medical care." "I'm not suggesting otherwise," Maria said gently. "But sometimes the spirit needs medicine too." The conversation stayed with Sarah throughout the day. That afternoon, during Lucas's physical therapy session, she noticed something different. Instead of his usual reluctant participation, Lucas was asking Jennifer Walker questions about how muscles worked, how the brain sent signals to different body parts. "What's gotten into him today?" Jen asked Sarah during a water break. Sarah watched her son attempting the exercises with unprecedented focus. "I think he's found a reason to try." 2 days later, William came home to find Lucas on the floor of the playroom with Maria sitting cross-legged beside him. Several toys were arranged in a circle around them. "What's going on here?" William asked, loosening his tie. "Training," Lucas said seriously, "like Captain America." Maria looked up, seeming slightly uncomfortable. "He asked me to place his toys just out of reach. He wants to challenge himself." William observed as Lucas pushed himself toward a toy truck, using his arms to drag his lower body. There was nothing new about this. Lucas had been crawling this way for years, but the intentionality, the structured practice, that was different. "Mr. Bennet," Maria said quietly as Lucas concentrated on his task. "My shift ended 20 minutes ago, but I didn't want to interrupt his focus. Is it okay if I stay a little longer? My son has study group tonight anyway." William nodded, surprised. "Of course, and Maria, thank you." That evening, after Maria had gone home and Lucas was asleep, William found Sarah in their bedroom, researching something on her tablet. "What are you looking into?" he asked, sitting beside her. Sarah showed him the screen, articles about neuroplasticity, mind-body connection, and alternative approaches to mobility challenges. "I've been thinking about what Lucas said, about his legs not knowing how important it is to walk." William sighed. Sarah, we can't go down this road again. The disappointment nearly broke him last time. This is different, Sarah insisted. He's driving this, Will. For the first time, he believes he can do it. Because of something our housekeeper said, William pointed out. Sarah met his eyes. Maybe Maria knows something we don't. October brought crisp air and turning leaves to Greenwich. As the Bennett estate grounds transformed into a canvas of reds and golds, a subtle transformation was taking place inside the mansion as well. Lucas had developed a routine. Each morning after breakfast, he would practice reaching for objects placed strategically around him just beyond his comfortable crawling range. In the afternoons, following his regular physical therapy, he would ask Maria to sit with him for what he called his special training. At first, Jennifer Walker, his physical therapist, had been skeptical about these additional exercises. But after observing Lucas's unprecedented engagement, she began incorporating some of Maria's approaches into their sessions. I've never seen motivation like this in a child his age, Jen told Sarah during their weekly progress discussion. Whatever Maria said to him, it lit a fire. Sarah nodded, watching through the glass doors as Lucas worked with Jen. She didn't give him any specific techniques, just perspective. Sometimes that's more powerful than any medical intervention, Jen admitted. The mind-body connection is stronger than we often acknowledge in traditional therapy. On a particularly golden afternoon, 3 weeks after the incident on the laundry room steps, Lucas achieved his first breakthrough. Maria had placed his favorite toy, a vintage red fire truck that had been William's as a child, on the second step of the staircase. Lucas was determined to retrieve it without asking for help. Sarah was passing by when she heard Lucas's voice, strained with effort. Today is a new day. It is possible. She stopped, recognizing Maria's mantra. Peering around the corner, she saw Lucas at the bottom of the stairs. Instead of crawling, he was on his knees, one hand gripping the banister. As Sarah watched, hardly daring to breathe, Lucas pulled himself up until he was standing, unsteadily but standing, supporting his weight between the banister and the wall. "Maria, look!" he called out, his voice trembling with effort and excitement. Maria, who had been watching silently from a few feet away, nodded encouragingly. "You are strong, pequeño guerrero. Your legs are listening now." The moment lasted only seconds before Lucas's knees buckled and he slid back down to a sitting position. But the triumph on his face was unmistakable. He hadn't reached the fire truck, but he had stood, briefly, partially supported, but stood nonetheless, for the first time in his life. Sarah stepped back, her hand pressed against her mouth to stifle her reaction. She wanted to rush forward, to scoop Lucas into her arms and celebrate this milestone, but something held her back. This was his moment, his achievement with the person who had inspired it. That evening, Sarah recounted what she'd witnessed to William, who received the news with cautious optimism. "It's progress," he acknowledged. "But Sarah, standing with support, is still a long way from walking. I don't want us to get carried away." "Why not?" Sarah challenged. "Why shouldn't we believe completely in what he might achieve?" William ran a hand through his hair, a gesture that revealed his inner conflict. "Because I've watched him struggle and suffer through disappointment after disappointment. Each time we get our hopes up, it's like watching him break all over again." "This time is different," Sarah insisted. "This isn't about some external treatment or miracle drug. This is Lucas believing in himself." Later that night, William found himself outside Lucas's bedroom. The door was ajar, and he could hear Maria's voice as she prepared Lucas for bed, a task that had become part of her expanded role in recent weeks. "Will I walk tomorrow?" Lucas was asking. "I don't know, pequeño," Maria answered honestly. "But tomorrow you will be stronger than today. And if I keep getting stronger every day, then one day you will surprise everyone, even yourself." William leaned against the wall, listening to the simple wisdom in Maria's words. There was no false promise, no unrealistic guarantee, just the steady encouragement to keep trying, to focus on daily progress rather than the ultimate goal. It was, he realized, exactly what had guided his own journey from a struggling programmer to a successful tech entrepreneur. Somehow, in their desperate search for medical solutions, they had overlooked the fundamental principle that had shaped his own life: persistent effort toward an unwavering vision. As November approached, Lucas's special training evolved. Now, instead of just reaching for objects, he practiced pulling himself up alongside furniture: the coffee table, the sofa, the sturdy ottoman. Each small victory was celebrated, each setback met with Maria's unwavering mantra: "Today is a new day. It is possible." Dr. Mitchell, during his monthly assessment, noted measurable improvements in Lucas's muscle tone and coordination. "Whatever you're doing differently," he told Sarah and William, "keep doing it." His neural pathways seemed to be establishing new connections. For the first time in 4 years, the Bennetts allowed themselves to hope, not wildly, but steadily, day by day, just as Lucas was learning to do. The Thanksgiving holiday arrived with a flurry of preparation at the Bennett estate. William's parents were flying in from Florida, and Sarah's sister would be driving up from Philadelphia with her husband and 2 children. For Emma, it meant a 4-day weekend away from school. For Lucas, it represented something entirely different: an opportunity to show his grandparents and cousins what he had been working on. "Do you think I'll be ready?" Lucas asked Maria anxiously as she helped him with his morning exercises. They had developed a routine where Lucas would practice standing while holding on to a specially designed walker that Dr. Mitchell had prescribed. "Ready for what, pequeño?" Maria asked, though she knew the answer. "To show them I can stand up. Maybe even take a step." His blue eyes searched her face for reassurance. Maria adjusted his grip on the walker. "The body knows its own time, Lucas. We don't rush the flower to bloom." Lucas nodded seriously, absorbing her wisdom with the peculiar solemnity he often displayed. At 4, he sometimes seemed to carry an old soul, particularly in these recent weeks of determined effort. The day before Thanksgiving, William approached Maria as she prepared to leave for the day. "Maria, we'd like you to join us for Thanksgiving dinner tomorrow," he said. "You've become important to this family." Maria looked surprised. "That's very kind, Mr. Bennett, but I always spend Thanksgiving with my son." "Bring him," William said without hesitation. "We'd like to meet Miguel." That night, as Sarah decorated the formal dining room with Emma's help, William sat with Lucas in the playroom, watching his son maneuver between furniture pieces with growing confidence. "Daddy," Lucas said suddenly, "when you were making your company, did you ever fall down?" William smiled at the question. "Many times, buddy. Not literally like you, but I failed a lot before I succeeded." "What did you do when you fell?" "I got back up. Every single time." Lucas nodded, processing this. "That's what I'm doing too." "Yes," William agreed, his throat tight with emotion. "Yes, you are." Thanksgiving Day dawned bright and cold, the Bennett home filled with the aromas of roasting turkey and pumpkin pie. By noon, the family had gathered, grandparents exclaiming over how much Emma had grown, cousins immediately engrossed in showing each other their latest video games. Lucas remained uncharacteristically quiet, watching the family interactions from his specialized wheelchair. Sarah noticed his pensive expression and knelt beside him. "Everything okay, sweetheart?" Lucas nodded, then whispered, "When is Maria coming?" "Soon," Sarah assured him. "Her church has a morning service, but she and Miguel will be here for dinner." When the doorbell rang an hour later, it was Lucas who insisted on being the one to answer it, with Sarah's help wheeling him to the foyer. Maria stood there in a simple but elegant blue dress, beside a tall young man in a crisp white shirt and tie. Happy Thanksgiving, Maria smiled. This is my son, Miguel. Miguel bent down to Lucas's level. So you're the famous Lucas. My mom talks about you all the time. Lucas's face lit up. She does. She says you're the bravest kid she's ever met. The afternoon unfolded with the warm chaos of family gatherings. William's mother fussed over Lucas, insisting on pushing his wheelchair herself. Sarah's nephews included Emma in their video game tournament. Miguel, they discovered, was studying biomedical engineering on scholarship, his intelligence and quiet confidence impressing everyone. As they gathered around the massive dining table, William rose to offer a toast. This year, we have much to be thankful for, he began, his gaze moving around the table before settling on Lucas. We've learned that progress comes in many forms and sometimes from unexpected sources. He nodded toward Maria. To new friends who have become family, and to the power of believing in possibilities. The meal was nearly finished when Lucas tugged at Maria's sleeve. I want to show them now, he whispered. Maria glanced at Sarah, who had overheard. Sarah nodded, a mixture of nervousness and excitement in her eyes. Everyone, Sarah announced, standing, Lucas has something he'd like to show you. The room quieted as William brought Lucas's walker to the end of the table. With Maria on one side and Sarah on the other, Lucas was helped out of his wheelchair and positioned behind the walker. Lucas gripped the handles, his small face a mask of concentration. Slowly, with tremendous effort, he pulled himself up to standing position. A collective gasp went around the table. "Watch," Lucas said, his voice quivering with determination. Then, pushing the walker forward, he moved his right foot. It was a tiny movement, barely an inch, but it was deliberate. With another push of the walker, his left foot followed. He had taken his first steps. William's mother began to cry. Emma jumped up from her seat, clapping and cheering. Miguel watched with professional interest and personal emotion, understanding better than most the significance of what he was witnessing. Lucas took one more step before his strength gave out. As Sarah caught him, lowering him gently back into his wheelchair, his face shone with triumph. I did it, he said, looking directly at Maria. Today was the day. It was possible. Maria nodded, tears in her eyes. Sí, pequeño guerrero, and tomorrow will bring new possibilities. As the family erupted in congratulations and questions, William found himself standing beside Miguel, both watching the scene with similar expressions. Your mother, William said quietly, has given my son something no doctor could. Miguel smiled. That's who she is, Mr. Bennett. She's been doing the impossible all my life. The days following Thanksgiving unfolded with a new energy in the Bennett household. Lucas's achievement had shattered the invisible ceiling of expectations that had hung over the family for 4 years. The specialized walker became his constant companion as he practiced daily, his determination unwavering despite frequent falls and frustrations. Remember, Maria would say whenever his face crumpled with disappointment, the first step is the hardest. Each one after becomes a little easier. William, who had always maintained a certain professional distance with household staff, found himself seeking Maria out during her workday. One afternoon in early December, he found her folding laundry in the utility room. Maria, I'd like to speak with you about something, he began, uncharacteristically hesitant. What Lucas has accomplished, it wouldn't have happened without you. Maria continued folding, her movements precise and efficient. Mr. Bennett, all I did was remind him of what was already inside him. That's exactly it, William said, leaning against the doorframe. Sarah and I, the doctors, the therapists, we were all so focused on the medical aspects that we missed the most important part. He paused. We forgot to help him believe. Maria looked up then, her dark eyes meeting his directly. Faith is powerful medicine, Mr. Bennett. Yes, William nodded. I'm beginning to understand that. He straightened, shifting back to his more familiar, businesslike demeanor. I'd like to increase your compensation, effective immediately. And if there's anything you need, for yourself or Miguel, please don't hesitate to ask. Maria placed the folded towel on the stack. Thank you, Mr. Bennett, but seeing Lucas stand on his own, that is payment enough. Atoti. That evening, as snow began to fall outside the floor-to-ceiling windows of the Bennett living room, Miguel arrived to pick up his mother. William invited him in for coffee, curious about the young man who had impressed everyone at Thanksgiving. Your biomedical engineering studies, what specifically interests you? William asked as they sat in the kitchen. Miguel's eyes lit up with passion. Adaptive technology for mobility challenges. I'm working on a research project focused on exoskeletal supports for children with neuromuscular conditions. William's coffee cup paused midway to his lips. Like Lucas's condition. Similar, yes. Miguel nodded. The professor leading our lab believes that combining physical therapy with tailored support devices could dramatically improve outcomes. He glanced toward the living room, where Lucas was practicing with Maria and Sarah. What Lucas is achieving through sheer determination. Imagine if we could augment that with technology designed specifically for him. William was silent for a moment, his mind racing with possibilities. Throughout his career, he had developed an instinct for recognizing pivotal moments, opportunities that, if seized, could change everything. This conversation felt like one of those moments. Later that night, after Maria and Miguel had gone, William found Sarah in their bedroom, going through photos she had taken of Lucas's practice session. Have you ever thought about the fact that we've spent millions on treatments, William said, sitting beside her, but the breakthrough came from someone who makes $22 an hour cleaning our house? Sarah looked up, her expression thoughtful. It's humbling, isn't it? It's more than that, William replied. It's made me realize we've been approaching this all wrong. Maybe the answer isn't in finding the right doctor or the right treatment. Maybe it's in finding the right purpose. What are you thinking, Will? William took the tablet from her hands. Miguel is studying adaptive technology for kids with mobility issues. What if we created a foundation? Something that combines the best medical approaches with what we've learned from Maria's perspective. Sarah's eyes widened as she caught his vision. A holistic approach to childhood mobility challenges. Exactly, William nodded, growing animated. Medical treatment, technology, and, most importantly, building the child's belief that they can overcome. Outside their door, Emma listened, a small smile forming on her face. Her father, always the entrepreneur, had found a new mission, and this time it was personal. December brought both progress and challenges. As Christmas decorations transformed the Bennett estate into a winter wonderland, Lucas continued his daily practice. Each small victory, standing unassisted for 10 seconds, taking 3 consecutive steps without pausing, was celebrated with the fanfare previously reserved for major business deals or Emma's academic achievements. Dr. Mitchell, during his pre-holiday assessment, couldn't hide his astonishment as Lucas demonstrated his newfound abilities. I've been practicing medicine for 25 years, he told William and Sarah afterward, and I've rarely seen anything like this. The improvement in his muscle tone and neural response is remarkable. So he could fully recover, Sarah asked, hope evident in her voice. Dr. Mitchell's expression grew cautious. I don't want to overpromise. Lucas's condition is still present. What we're seeing is his brain creating alternative pathways to mobility, essentially working around the damaged connections rather than repairing them. But he's walking, William pointed out. That's what matters, isn't it? Of course, Dr. Mitchell nodded, and I fully support continuing whatever you're doing. I'm simply cautioning against expecting a complete reversal of his condition. There will likely always be some limitation to his mobility. William's jaw tightened slightly, the same expression he wore when told a business challenge was insurmountable. "We understand, Doctor, but I think Lucas has already proven that limitations are often more flexible than they appear." That weekend, William invited Miguel to join him in his home office. The young man arrived promptly, dressed in a crisp, button-down shirt, despite the casual weekend setting. "I've been thinking about your research," William began, gesturing for Miguel to take a seat. "The adaptive technology you mentioned. How far along is the development?" "Honestly, years from market," Miguel admitted. "The prototypes are promising, but funding is limited, and FDA approval for pediatric devices is a lengthy process." William nodded, having anticipated this answer. What if funding wasn't an obstacle? Miguel's eyebrows rose. "That would change everything, Mr. Bennett, but in academia, funding is always an obstacle." "I'm establishing a foundation," William said, sliding a folder across the desk. "The Lucas Bennett Foundation for Pediatric Mobility. I'd like to offer you an internship, paid, of course, to help bridge your academic work with our mission." Miguel opened the folder, scanning the preliminary documents with widening eyes. "This is substantial." The foundation will have 3 pillars," William continued. "Medical research, adaptive technology development, and what we're calling empowerment therapy, the approach your mother has so effectively demonstrated with Lucas." "My mother?" Miguel looked up, surprised. "Maria has shown us something invaluable, that belief and purpose are as important as physical treatment." William leaned forward. "I'd like her involved as well, if she's willing. Her perspective would be essential in developing the empowerment component." Miguel was silent for a moment, processing the offer. "Mr. Bennett, this is incredibly generous, but my mother, she's very proud. She might not feel comfortable accepting what could be perceived as charity." "It's not charity," William said firmly. "It's recognition of expertise. Maria has succeeded where teams of specialists failed. That's not luck or coincidence. It's a gift. And it's one that could help countless other children." As Miguel left with the proposal to discuss with his mother, William felt a sense of purpose he hadn't experienced since founding his tech company 15 years earlier. This new venture wouldn't add to his net worth, but its potential value was immeasurable. Meanwhile, in the family room, Lucas was having a difficult session. Despite his progress, today his legs seemed particularly uncooperative, causing him to fall repeatedly. "I can't do it anymore," he finally cried, tears of frustration streaming down his face as he refused Sarah's help to stand again. Maria, who had been quietly observing from the doorway, approached and sat on the floor beside him. "Do you know what my abuela, my grandmother, used to say, pequeño? She said the tide goes out before it comes in stronger." Lucas wiped his eyes, looking at her quizzically. "What does that mean?" "It means," Maria explained gently, "that sometimes we must go backward a little before we can move forward. It's part of the journey." Lucas considered this, his frustration gradually subsiding. "So my legs are just taking a rest before getting stronger?" Maria smiled. "Exactly, your body is wise. It knows when to push and when to rest." Sarah watched this exchange with a mixture of gratitude and something else, a subtle discomfort she couldn't quite name. Maria's connection with Lucas was beautiful, but it also highlighted a gap in her own relationship with her son. Despite all her love and devotion, she hadn't been able to reach Lucas the way Maria had. The Bennett estate glowed with Christmas lights, visible from the winding driveway that led up to the main house. Inside, the 20-foot tree in the grand foyer sparkled with ornaments collected over decades, many now placed on lower branches where Lucas could reach them from his walker. "Higher, Daddy," Lucas directed, as William lifted him to place the star atop the tree. The tradition had always required William's assistance, but this year held new meaning. Lucas's progress had brought a sense of hope that extended beyond his physical achievements. It had transformed the family's vision of the future. Maria and Miguel had accepted William's offer to join the foundation initiative, though Maria had insisted on maintaining her regular duties in the household. "I am still a housekeeper, Mr. Bennet," she had said firmly. "The other work can happen after my shifts." William had reluctantly agreed, though he planned to revisit the arrangement after the holidays. In the meantime, he had given Maria time during her workday to continue Lucas's special training and to document her approach for the Foundation's protocols. As Christmas approached, Lucas's progress plateaued slightly. He could walk short distances with his walker, but tired quickly. Dr. Mitchell had explained that this was normal. Neural pathways strengthened in bursts, not in a continuous line of improvement. One evening, Sarah found Lucas sitting on the window seat in his bedroom, watching the snow fall. His walker stood nearby, temporarily abandoned. "Everything okay, sweetheart?" she asked, sitting beside him. Lucas continued gazing out the window. "Emma is going skiing with her friends after Christmas." "Yes," Sarah nodded, immediately understanding his thoughts. "That bothers you?" Lucas turned to her, his blue eyes serious. "Will I ever ski, Mummy?" The question hit Sarah like a physical blow. Despite his remarkable progress, there would likely always be activities beyond Lucas's reach. The reality of his condition, improved but not cured, settled heavily between them. "I don't know, baby," she answered honestly, "but there are special programs for children with mobility challenges. Adaptive skiing with special equipment. We could look into that for next winter." Lucas considered this. Would it be real skiing? "Real enough," Sarah said, pulling him close. "Different doesn't mean less, Lucas. It just means finding another way." Later that night, Sarah related the conversation to William as they prepared for bed. "He's becoming more aware of his limitations," she said, her voice catching. "It breaks my heart, Will." William sat beside her on the edge of their bed. "We knew this would happen eventually. As wonderful as his progress has been, we've always understood he may never have typical mobility." "I know," Sarah nodded. "But understanding it intellectually is different from watching your child realize it for himself." Downstairs in the kitchen, Maria was preparing to leave for the day when Miguel arrived to pick her up. He found her sitting at the staff table, reviewing notes she'd made about Lucas's exercises. "Mama, you look tired," he observed, sitting across from her. Maria smiled faintly. "Just thinking, mijo. The Bennett boy, he is making such progress, but there is a long road ahead." "Is something wrong?" Miguel asked, sensing her unusual mood. Maria sighed. "Mr. Bennett's foundation, his plans for us to be involved. It is a beautiful opportunity, but I worry about boundaries becoming confused. Lucas is becoming very attached to me. And that's bad." "It is complicated," Maria replied. "I love that child like he was my own family. But I am not family. I am staff, and eventually my role in his life will change." Miguel studied his mother thoughtfully. "You're worried about him being hurt when you step back?" "See," Maria nodded, "and about overstepping my place. Mrs. Bennet has been very gracious, but I see sometimes in her eyes. It is difficult for a mother when another woman connects with her child in a way she cannot." Christmas morning arrived with fresh snow and excited voices. Lucas woke early, eager to see if Santa had visited. With his walker, he made his way to Emma's room, knocking persistently until his sleepy sister emerged. "Is it time?" he asked impatiently. Emma checked her phone. "It's 6:30, Lucas. Mom and Dad said not before 7 Sue." Lucas's face fell with disappointment until Emma grinned and whispered, "But I think I heard something downstairs. Want to go investigate?" Together they made their slow way down the hallway toward the staircase, Emma patiently matching her pace to Lucas's determined but halting steps. At the top of the stairs, they paused. "I can't do the stairs with my walker," Lucas said, frowning at the obstacle. Emma considered for a moment. "How about a piggyback ride? Just this once?" Lucas's face lit up. "Like when I was little?" "You're still little, Squirt," Emma teased, but her expression was tender as she helped him climb onto her back. January brought a harsh winter to Connecticut and an unexpected setback at the Bennett estate. The incident occurred on a Tuesday afternoon when the driveway and walkways, despite regular salting, had developed icy patches from a freezing rain. Lucas had been making steady progress using his walker outdoors, first on the covered terrace, then on the garden paths, when weather permitted. His confidence had grown enough that he sometimes grew frustrated with what he perceived as excessive caution from his parents and therapists. Maria had just finished cleaning the kitchen when she heard the commotion, urgent voices, then Sarah's cry of alarm. She rushed to the front of the house to find William carrying Lucas through the front door, the boy's face contorted with pain. "What happened?" Maria asked, immediately clearing space on the sofa. "He went outside while I was on a call," Sarah explained, her voice tight with worry and self-recrimination. "He wanted to show me he could walk to the car by himself." "The walkway was icy," William added grimly as he gently laid Lucas down. "He fell hard." Lucas's face was pale, tears streaming silently down his cheeks. "My leg," he whimpered. "It hurts, Daddy." Dr. Mitchell met them at Greenwich Hospital's emergency room. X-rays confirmed a fractured tibia. Not uncommon in children, but particularly concerning given Lucas's condition. The break would require a cast and complete rest for at least 6 weeks. "Just as he was making such progress," Sarah whispered, watching through the treatment room window as the doctor explained the situation to Lucas in child-friendly terms. "This will set him back months." William put his arm around her shoulders. "He'll bounce back. He's proven how resilient he is." But the following weeks proved more difficult than any of them had anticipated. Lucas, confined again to his wheelchair, with his leg elevated and immobilized, fell into a depression unlike anything they'd seen before. The spark that had animated him since that fateful day with Maria seemed extinguished. "I don't want to do exercises today," became his daily refrain when Jennifer Walker arrived for his modified physical therapy sessions. "Lucas, we need to keep your upper body and your good legs strong," Jen would explain patiently. "So when your broken leg heals, you'll be ready to walk again." "What's the point?" Lucas would respond, staring blankly at the television. "I'll just fall again." Maria, who had temporarily adjusted her schedule to provide additional help during Lucas's recovery, found herself increasingly concerned. The little warrior she had come to admire had retreated behind walls of disappointment and fear. One snowy afternoon in late January, Maria found Lucas alone in the playroom, listlessly pushing a toy car back and forth with one finger. "Mind if I join you, pequeño?" she asked, sitting beside his wheelchair. Lucas shrugged without looking at her. "I brought you something," Maria said, placing a small wooden object in his lap. It was a carving of a turtle, its details simple but expressive, with a determined face peering out from its shell. Lucas picked it up, examining it with mild curiosity. "What is it for?" "My father carved this for me when I was a little girl in El Salvador," Maria explained. "When things were very dangerous in my country and we had to hide often. He told me, 'Maria, be like the turtle. The turtle is not fast, but it never gives up, and it carries its home, its protection, with it always.'" Lucas traced the turtle's shell with his finger. "But turtles are slow." "Yes," Maria nodded. "And yet they have survived since the time of dinosaurs, long after faster, stronger animals disappeared." She gently turned the turtle over in Lucas's hands. "Look underneath." Carved on the bottom in small, neat letters was a phrase, "Lento pero seguro." "What does it mean?" Lucas asked. Slow but sure, Maria translated. It was my father's favorite saying. He believed that how quickly you reach your destination matters less than your determination to get there. For the first time in weeks, a flicker of interest animated Lucas's features. Like me, before I got hurt. Exactly like you, Maria confirmed, and you can be that way again, pequeño. The broken bone will heal, but only you can decide if your spirit will stay broken or grow stronger. That evening, Lucas asked to join the family for dinner at the table, rather than eating from a tray in front of the television, as he had been doing since the accident. It was a small change, but to William and Sarah it felt monumental. Maria gave me a turtle, Lucas announced as Emma helped him with his napkin. It's magic. William raised an eyebrow. Magic? How so? It reminds me to be slow but sure, Lucas explained with renewed determination. I think I want to try my exercises again tomorrow. Sarah caught Maria's eye as she served the meal, mouthing a silent thank you. Maria nodded almost imperceptibly, then continued with her duties. The quiet strength of her presence, a now essential thread in the fabric of the Bennett household. February brought gradual healing, both physical and emotional. Lucas's fracture was mending well, according to Dr. Mitchell's latest assessment, though the cast would remain for another 2 weeks at least. His bone density is actually improving, the doctor noted during his consultation with William and Sarah. The walking he did before the accident appears to have stimulated bone growth. It's quite remarkable. And after the cast comes off, Sarah asked, will he be able to resume his progress? I see no reason why not, Dr. Mitchell replied, though we'll need to rebuild his strength gradually. The muscles in that leg will have atrophied somewhat from disuse. What the doctor couldn't measure was the renewal of Lucas's determination. The carved turtle had become his talisman, accompanying him everywhere, to therapy sessions, doctor's appointments, even to bed where it sat on his nightstand watching over him. Meanwhile, William's plans for the foundation had advanced significantly. Legal structures were in place, initial funding secured, and preliminary partnerships established with leading research institutions. Miguel had proven invaluable, bringing both technical expertise and a personal understanding of the Foundation's mission. One evening in mid-February, William invited Maria to join a family meeting in the living room after dinner. She entered somewhat hesitantly, still dressed in her work uniform despite having completed her regular duties hours earlier. "Please, sit," William gestured to an armchair. Lucas immediately wheeled himself to position next to her, his cast now decorated with colorful drawings and signatures. "Maria," William began, "I want to discuss something important with you, something that affects this family and potentially many others." He outlined the Foundation's progress and its 3-pillar approach: medical research, adaptive technology, and empowerment therapy. The first 2 components are well defined, he continued, but the third, the empowerment approach that you've demonstrated with Lucas, that's where we need your direct involvement. Maria looked uncertain. "Mr. Bennett, I have no formal training in therapy or medicine." "That's precisely the point," Sarah interjected. "What you've done with Lucas wasn't based on medical training. It was based on something more fundamental, your life experience and wisdom. We'd like you to help develop protocols for what we're calling possibility thinking," William explained, "teaching children with mobility challenges and their families to focus on capabilities rather than limitations." Maria was silent for a moment, her hands folded in her lap. "May I share something with you all?" she finally asked. When William nodded, she continued, "When I was 20 in El Salvador, our village was attacked during the Civil War. I was hit by shrapnel in my back." Lucas gasped, his eyes wide. Emma leaned forward in her seat. "The doctors said I might never walk again," Maria continued. I had Miguel, just a baby then and no husband. He had been killed months earlier. For weeks I believed what they told me. But then one day I looked at my son and realized I had to find a way. There was no one else to care for him. She paused, gathering herself. I began by simply refusing to accept their limitation. Each day I would tell my legs what I needed from them. I would visualize walking to my baby when he cried. It took months, but eventually my body responded. Not because the damage healed, but because my determination created new paths. The room was silent when she finished. Then Lucas spoke up, just like me. Maria smiled at him. Just like you, Pequeño Guerrero, and like many others who could benefit from knowing that medical diagnoses are important, but they are not the final word on what is possible. William cleared his throat, visibly moved by her story. Maria, I'd like to offer you a formal position with the foundation. You would help design the empowerment curriculum and eventually train others in your approach. What about my current position? Maria asked cautiously. That would be your choice, William replied. You could continue here part-time if you wish, or transition fully to the foundation. Either way, your contribution would be properly compensated. Later that evening, as Maria related the conversation to Miguel in their modest apartment, she seemed conflicted. It is a beautiful opportunity, mijo. But I have been a housekeeper for so long. It is what I know. Miguel took her hands in his. Mama, you have always been much more than a housekeeper. Mr. Bennett sees that now. This is a chance to help many children like Lucas. And you, Maria asked, you are comfortable working with this family? Miguel nodded. Mr. Bennett has connections that could advance my research by years, and he hesitated. I believe in what we're trying to build. The technology combined with your approach, it could change lives. As March approached and the day for removing Lucas's cast drew near, anticipation built in the Bennett household. Lucas alternated between excitement and anxiety. What if I can't walk anymore? He asked Maria during one of their daily talks. What if my leg forgot how? Maria placed the wooden turtle in his palm. Your leg remembers, Pequeño. And even if it needs to learn again, you already know the way. Spring arrived with renewed hope and fresh beginnings. On a bright April morning, the Bennett family gathered in the garden behind their home, where a small ceremony was taking place. A banner stretched between two flowering cherry trees read, Grand Opening, the Lucas Bennett Foundation for Pediatric Mobility. Lucas, now 5 years old, stood with minimal support from his lightweight carbon fiber walker, a prototype developed through Miguel's research program and manufactured by William's company. His leg had healed well, and though he had indeed lost ground during his recovery, his progress since then had been steady. Slow but sure, as he liked to remind everyone, showing them his turtle. The garden was filled with an interesting mix of people, medical professionals, technology developers, potential donors, and most significantly, 5 families with children facing mobility challenges similar to Lucas's. These families had been carefully selected as the Foundation's first beneficiaries, each child already beginning the integrated program developed over the winter months. Welcome, everyone, William addressed the gathering, his voice carrying across the spring air. Today marks the official launch of a mission that began in the most unexpected way. He glanced at Maria, who stood quietly to one side, dressed not in her housekeeper uniform, but in a simple yet elegant blue dress, her new professional attire as director of the empowerment program. Some of you know our family's story, William continued. Our son Lucas was diagnosed with a rare neuromuscular condition that prevented him from walking. For 4 years, we pursued every medical avenue available with limited success. He paused, emotion briefly overwhelming him. Sarah stepped closer, her hand finding his in support. Then something remarkable happened. William resumed. Our housekeeper, Maria Rodriguez, now our colleague and friend, showed Lucas that his greatest limitation wasn't physical at all. It was in how he thought about his condition. Maria smiled as several eyes turned toward her. Her role in the foundation had evolved significantly over the past months. What began as informal consultation had developed into a structured program combining physical techniques with mental conditioning. Possibility thinking, they called it, an approach now being documented for wider implementation. Today, William announced, we launch 3 integrated programs under the Foundation's umbrella: Advanced Medical Research, Adaptive Technology Development, and the Empowerment Program. Together, these initiatives represent a holistic approach to pediatric mobility challenges. After the formal presentation, as guests mingled and children played in the specially designed accessible playground, Lucas approached Maria. He had left his walker leaning against a tree several yards back. "Maria, watch," he said, his face alight with determination. Then, with careful, deliberate movements, he took 5 unassisted steps toward her. Maria knelt to receive him, her eyes shining with pride and tears. "Magnifico, pequeño guerrero," she exclaimed, embracing him as he reached her. "I'm going all the way to the swing set next," Lucas declared, pointing to the adaptive playground equipment installed at the far end of the garden. "Slow, but sure," Maria reminded him gently. "No!" Lucas shook his head, surprising her. "Today, I'm going to be fast and sure." With that, he turned and made his way back to his walker, then proceeded confidently toward the playground where the other children were gathering. Sarah approached, having witnessed the exchange. He's quite determined now that he's started kindergarten. Wants to keep up with everyone else. "It is good," Maria nodded. "The right kind of determination comes from joy, not fear." Sarah hesitated, then spoke from her heart. "Maria, I never properly thanked you, not just for what you did for Lucas, but for what you've taught our whole family." Maria started to demur, but Sarah continued. "Before all this, we defined success by achievements and acquisitions. You showed us that true success is in overcoming, in refusing to be defined by limitations." She took Maria's hand. "You gave us back our son, but you also gave us a new purpose." Across the garden, William was engaged in conversation with Miguel, who was demonstrating the next-generation pediatric walker to potential donors. The young engineer had thrived in his role, his academic brilliance now paired with practical application and purpose. As the afternoon progressed, families shared stories and children played together, some walking, some in wheelchairs, some using various supportive devices. The barriers that typically separated them in everyday life seemed to dissolve in this thoughtfully designed space. Lucas, taking a break from play, found himself sitting beside a girl about his age who wore leg braces similar to ones he had used during his recovery. "I'm going to walk without these someday," she told him matter-of-factly. "I believe you," Lucas replied with the simple confidence of a child who had made the same journey. He reached into his pocket and pulled out the wooden turtle, placing it in her hand. "This helped me. Maybe it can help you too." "But it's yours," the girl protested. Lucas shook his head. "My friend Maria says that some gifts are meant to be passed on." He closed her fingers around the carving. Slow, but sure. From across the garden, Maria watched the exchange, her heart full. The journey that had begun with a simple fall on the laundry room steps had transformed not only Lucas's life, but many others. The wisdom she had carried from her homeland, from her own struggles, wisdom she had never considered special or extraordinary, was now helping children find their strength and families find new hope. As William called everyone together for a group photo, Lucas walked to the center of the gathering without assistance, standing tall between his parents, his face beaming with pride and possibility. The road ahead would still hold challenges, but a foundation had been built, one far stronger than anyone could have imagined when a 4-year-old boy had watched a housekeeper move with unexpected grace and asked, with childlike wonder, "Could you teach